Hello, welcome to Pop Chat. My name is Annette Tarpley, the founder of the Passion of Poetry. And with me today, we have Dustin Pickering with us. I'm very happy to have you, Dustin. Welcome.
Well, thank you for inviting me today. It's good to be on the program.
And those who don't know Dustin, he does his own little thing where he interviews poets. And so he's been doing this much longer than I have. And so it must be very strange to be on the other side of it. Is it a little strange to be on the other side?
It is quite different, I admit.
Well, you don't, the pressure's not on. And if you don't have an answer for something, you can always just say, I don't have an answer. So there you go.
That's true. Just the
So I'm
old, I don't know.
trying to show the ambiance of my fireplace. It's the only time I put my fireplace on is when I'm on this.
That's
So,
important.
Dustin, what I want you to do,
Hmm.
because I find that you have many eggs in the fire, and I read your bio, and you've gotten some awards, and I want you to include the awards that you've gotten because you've gotten some fairly prestigious awards, including number one out of like a lot. So I want you to tell us about Dustin, and I want you to divulge whatever you want, where you live, whatever personal information, and then your poetic and your writing journey, and let us know about you.
Well, I'm Dustin Pickering, and I anchor World Inkers Network. Some of you guys probably seen this program. It's on same. It's very similar to this program, this Pop Chat, and I placed in the Urbachi Prize a couple years back. I placed in the top 100 of 12,500 different entries. I won I was shortlisted for the Raheem Karam Prize, World Prize. I also basically was given the Knight of World Peace by the World Peace Institute, or the World Institute of Peace. Actually, I had the order in reverse there. Sometimes that happens to me, a tongue twister. And I'm an author of several books, including Salt and Sorrow and Knows No End, A Matter of Degrees, which was a philosophical book. I've also written a fairy tale called The Red Velvet Robe, which was really cute and entertaining. I have several poems of several books of poetry, and I have a novella that's called Be Not Afraid of What You May Find, which was sort of a supernatural horror thriller novella. I've written quite a bit of articles and essays and critical reviews of different writings from, for instance, from Kirti Sen Gupta. I've written several essays about his work. I've written several reviews on other people's books. And I have one coming up in Cafe Dissensus today on a couple of days from now. So keep a lookout for that. And I wrote for Huffington Post for briefly. I was a part of the contributor platform that they've discontinued now. I wrote just essays on, the state
Mhm.
of publishing and a few other things. Like I had some political essays that I published with them. And so that's pretty much my story. I live in Houston, Texas, and come from a kind of an interesting background. I had a lot of trouble in my childhood, and I ended up growing up and suffering from severe mental health issues, and overcame those and became sort of like a global poetry figure, which is really interesting. I never expected that to happen. I actually went through several periods where I was deeply suicidal. So if anybody out there is suffering from that right now, then please know you're not alone. So I just wanted to say that. So thank you so much, Annette, for giving me that platform.
No, it's wonderful to listen to you. And so I want to talk about a few things that you were talking about.
Mhm.
So one of the things that you were just discussing towards the end was the mental health issues, and I have worked in psychiatry, including recently. And one of the big things that I do is tell people that have mental health issues and that have anxiety and so forth that it's energy, and it can be used destructively,
Mhm.
or you can use it constructively and funnel it into a passion such as writing or art or whatever. I think it really helps when people are able, to do that, and and it puts their mind in a different place. Now they have to
Mhm.
concentrate on this,
Absolutely.
and so I preach that a lot in that. diversion is a huge thing. When I
Uh,
first started doing jewelry a few years back, I did for a few years. I didn't watch TV at all for like 3 years.
wow. I still don't watch TV.
Yeah, yeah, I don't watch much either. I do it when I eat, so about 20
Mhm.
minutes a day, whether I need it or not. We already have some comments, and that is from we don't know who you are if you don't sign your thing because you're not identified till later when this posts. So unless you sign your statement, you are just a Facebook user. So please sign who you are. So we do have Kelly Owen, who I introduced you to, I believe, in the wee hours of the morning. And
Yes.
Kelly is new
Kelly.
to me, but I quickly fell in love with her and her work, and you're going to be amazed by Kelly. And she's also, I made her member pop real quick because she's just got so much to bring to all of us in our poetry community. When I was listening to you, she also said congratulations to you. So there you go.
Thank
So
you.
thanks, Kelly. When I was listening to you, so one of the things I want you to explain to me because I don't know, I think I know what it means, but I'm not sure. But you were saying novella. So what is a novella?
It's basically a short novel. It's just a matter of the word count. I believe a novella is like 20,000 to 50,000 words, and a full novel is like much more extensive than that. So
So that's only 20 to 50,000 words is a novella,
I think
which
so. Yeah.
seems like a lot of words to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, for telling a story though, I mean, for a short story, and maybe I think this one was like I think the story itself ended up being about 60 typed pages. Yeah, something
Yeah,
like
I'm
that.
very impressed with because when did you start writing? How old were you?
I was probably, from what I remember, on conscious memory, I was about 6 or 7 years old when I started writing. I wrote a children's story.
Okay. But when did you become prolific in your writing?
I've always written poetry throughout my teens, but when I really decided to commit to writing was when I
Mhm.
was about in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And I thought I first was exposed to the poetry of Sylvia Plath when I was in sophomore in high school, which was about 15 years old,
Yeah.
and I really just jumped into that. And that's when I think I really decided I really wanted to write poetry, but I didn't know if I could do it. I was really intimidated by her power. I was like, I don't think I can do this, but I'll give it a
So
shot.
you were a writer of other things first before you went into poetry, right?
Yeah, I wrote stories. I wanted to be a horror writer like Stephen King for a while, and I ended up kind of doing that with the
Mhm.
novella, but I didn't go into it like full time like Stephen King like I thought I would do. But I wanted to be a full time writer, but I don't, and make some money off of it. But I've learned,
Yeah.
that's sort of a big dream. It's hard to do.
Yeah, and you can still do it though, right? It could
I
still
hope
be
so.
there in the back.
One day.
I mean, my for years, even before becoming a poet, I've always wanted to write a novel, which I still want to do someday, should I be given the time to do it.
Hmm.
But I do a lot of stories in my, not all my poetry is stories, but I do a lot of it because it puts you there. I like using the imagery and things that we can use. I like taking people places. Isn't it fun to take them places with you as
Right.
you're describing things?
Imagination, traveling.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to read some of your stuff. I'm going to have to later on. You can maybe give me some links and I can purchase some
Okay.
of your stuff. I'd love to read it. Um, and I also know you as having dealt with you before in the past. That makes it sound having dealt with you before
I
in the
was gonna
past.
say you've dealt with me
Um, um, that
strictly,
you're
sternly.
you're a very complex thinker, and you're very cerebral and deep.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I mean that is what struck me when I first met you.
Mhm.
You really go after it. So, but when I'm listening to you and all of your accomplishments, and probably a fairly short period of time, right?
I started publishing and getting involved in poetry and writing the community at large in 2010. I don't think I really started publishing my own stuff until about 2015, maybe, or 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've accomplished so much in a short period of time. And I think that those of us who are able to accomplish, a lot in a bit of time, kind of put, all of our passion and energies into that, right?
Mhm.
In order to accomplish that. But so kudos to you and congratulations for your successes.
Thank you.
Not everybody has, that kind of repertoire to spit out. So most people say, "Oh, I wrote a book," and but you're well published, and not only that, but you edit and you do all kinds of things. So
I'm like full
um,
time, pretty much writing and is my passion. It really is like
is
writing.
that your full time job?
You could call it that. I do it all. I do it all day. Like I just either write or I'm editing or I'm piecing together a book or doing one of these interview kind of things or something.
I'm jealous. You're living the life I'd like to lead. Yeah. Um, yeah, because
Join
I
me.
have, yeah, I'm actually thinking about doing something different in my life. I recently got a life coach because I've been
Mhm.
in this medical profession for 41 years. And as a nurse practitioner for the last 13 years, I haven't had a life. It totally encompasses all of my time off. All of my
Mhm.
time off that I don't get paid for is spent charting and trying to keep up.
Mhm.
And it's just it burns you out because even though you might make a good income, by the time you figure out how many hours you really spent, you're making
Wow.
it's just not worth it. I don't think I want to be flipping burgers at McDonald's, but I'd probably be good as a Walmart greeter or something. I don't know, but
I'm currently looking for an actual paying job.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. I got rejected from Kroger. I thought they turned me down. They said they're looking for someone.
Were you overqualified?
I was underqualified according to them.
Well, your stocking abilities weren't up to par. Or what?
Yeah, I guess I guess I'm not big and manly enough. I don't know. I don't.
That's just weird. That's just weird. Well, you know what? It's their loss. So I have a
Yeah.
friend who is a very intellectual man, very successful, has had much in life, and he says I've been fired many times in my life. I'm okay with that. I'm good with it. Fire me, good. I'm glad. I'm glad. Whatever. And I'm like, wow. But he's like, yeah. It just means it's not a good fit all the way around, or whatever reason it is, and you just move on and know things. And I think that through the years, I've listened to many successful people
Hmm.
that have had huge successes in their lives, and they've either lost lots of jobs along the way, or they hardly have any education, formal education. But to me, life is one of the best teachers, don't you think?
Right.
Yeah.
Experience. I used to say experience is the best textbook.
Yeah. And so I'm going to ask you this because this is my little saying that the smart people learn from their own mistakes and the brilliant people learn from other mistakes. Are you more smart or brilliant?
I'm both. I watch people, and most of the time I like to watch people, and when I find that something they do annoys me, I try not to do it around others. If that makes any sense, like I don't like to annoy people. I'm very sensitive, and so I don't
Yeah.
like to get on people's nerves unless they
Mm.
ask me to make a really weird, loud, squeaky noise. Then I'll do that.
Wow, that was pretty impressive. Do you have any other noises? Is that the only noise you know how to make?
That's the only noise I've
That's
heard
it.
before.
Sounds like the balloon, letting the
Yeah,
air out of the balloon, right? That's cool. I like that.
I just
So
try
we
not to get
have
on people's noise. Just get on people's nerves. I just don't want to do it. I
But
watch.
if it's not somebody that's annoying you, or that you really don't like, maybe that would be kind of fun to get on their nerves.
Yeah, get them back. Then I have a little bit of something in kind of like a reel in my head where I'm like, okay, this person's going to get on my nerves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my reel and find which different thing I can do to get on their nerves and get rid of them.
Yeah, you got it all cataloged in your mind, all your
Exactly.
things that you can do to annoy them. I
A
love
very
that.
large catalog.
And then you just pull them out of the hat at random opportunities.
Right.
So again, I think Kelly must be the only one here. She's the only one signing. But keep dreaming big. If you can see it, visualize it. It is yours. She's very much an empowering person. She's read a lot of intellectual self-helpy stuff, and
Mhm.
she's in her writings deep. I can't wait till. Have you all figured out on a date yet?
Yes, we have. We've got Saturday, next Saturday. not this Saturday, but the Saturday after at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for her interview.
All right, I can't wait till it happens. Make sure you remind me about it and send me the link because I definitely want to see that. And I because I get to watch you live, right?
Yes,
Do you use StreamYard? What medium do you
yes,
use? You
StreamYard.
do.
Hmm.
Do you um do you think that's the best medium to use when we're doing this?
From my experience, it has its faults. I found that a lot of times people have trouble with it, and they get on and it kicks them off, or they lose, the network or something. And I
Mhm.
found that that happens, and sometimes it happens with Streamyard, and it doesn't happen with Zoom. I don't know why. They've said Streamyard. I got an email that said that they fixed that problem. So hopefully they have.
That happened to the first time to me last night. Actually, it happened to me on more than one time with Zoom. And the difference is my thing locked up and I couldn't, whatever. And the difference is on Zoom, it kicks everybody off and you have to resend links and reconvene. Where
Hmm.
although I was gone and I'm the one hosting, everybody was still there on this medium. And that was nice. That the whole thing wasn't now they didn't know what was happening to me. I had them in solo form. So, you have Timothy Payton saying, I don't know where she went. Do y'all know where Annette went?
The
So
host is gone.
I
The absent
know.
host phenomenon.
Yeah, that's right. Why don't you share a piece with us of something you've
Okay,
written?
I just wrote this a few days ago. It's a very strange piece, and it's called "A Statue of Persephone." I am but a mere child, and as a child I will weep. No longer will I see my bow and arrow fly. Nighttime brings stars and dreams, but I am alive and awake during these hours of negation when the abyss counters my call. I turn green in a patch of delight. My hours flee in solemn songs. My mother is a statue of her own death. The shadows have taken her. No longer will my bow and arrow fly. Thanks.
Wow, that I love that. And I don't know
Well,
why you said that was so different. I thought it was unique and it was good. It was very good.
thank you.
Um, so when I'm listening to you, so because everybody has a little different fun. I remember when I was on your show, and
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember, but I read the Ballad of Ned, the thing about bullying.
Hmm.
Remember that one?
Hmm.
And you were like, so where did that come from? It's like,
Right.
but a life experience is part of it.
Hmm.
So we have a question, and Kelly said what you just read was deep. But before that, we have this. I don't know if it's from Kelly or someone else. Who inspires you?
That's a good question. Who inspires me? Well, it depends on what inspires me and what regard. I'm inspired musically by Kurt Cobain, Jim Morrison, those guys, the 27 Club, as they call them. Mostly Kurt Cobain and Jim Morrison. I love Jim Morrison's lyricism, his poetry, his writings are really great. If you go visit them, I like Sylvia Plath's poetry. That was an early inspiration for me. I also got into E. Cummings. I got into Bob Dylan early. Leonard Cohen is a must for me. Like everything he's done, I mean everything. There's not a single thing I've heard or read by him that hasn't just hit me in the face and been like, turn me red. Just like amazingly inspirational.
Yeah.
And let's see who else. I got really into like a lot of contemporaries. When I was younger, it was like John Ciardi, who translated Dante's Paradise and Inferno.
Oh, yeah.
But I read his poetry, and for some reason, I don't know why it struck me. I haven't read it in many years, but it was an early thing that I would read a lot of contemporary poetry at the library. I just go and pick something off the shelf, and they had a huge section of poetry. And so I just would read like when I was about 15, 16. Also Michelangelo, the sculptor, but he's also a poet.
I
And
did not know that.
yeah, his poetry is excellent too. He wrote quite a few sonnets and madrigals, and and they're really good stuff. It's really good
Oh,
stuff.
did I hear you say? Oh, yeah, I heard you say Annette Tarpley. Yes, her poetry inspires me. I think I heard you say that. But I'm
I
not.
might have said that, and I
Yeah.
might have forgotten it by now.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Just messing with you.
It went right
Just,
by us.
just messing with you. I've
I
written some
know, I
stuff that
know.
people have said
That's good. It's
sounds like
good.
Sylvia Plath, but
Uh huh.
that might be in my dark times sometimes. But
Yeah, I've had some dark periods. I went through
yeah,
a really bad grief spell a few months, like for a couple of months back, and I wrote a full notebook.
yeah.
I wrote, just
And
went
sometimes
through
I
it.
write dark stuff, and I might not be in a dark place. I might have seen a picture and it looks dark, and so I'm writing what I'm feeling from the picture.
Hmm.
So everybody instantly thinks that everything I write, well, I mean, the ideas and stuff are coming from somewhere, but
Hmm.
it doesn't always have to be about me. To be me observing somebody else's life, or you know
Right.
what I mean. So it comes from many places. I recently listened to a podcast, a poet, and he listening to his definition of what he thought of poetry, me being doing a lot of fiction, not always, um, I wouldn't be a poet, according to his definition. So it comes from this guttural whatever, whatever, and it's just this truth that comes out or whatever. And maybe I'm not a poet with the fictionalized stuff. I don't know.
You never know. I mean, I don't know what defines what a poet is. Who gets to define that?
Mhm. So recently there was a comment, and hopefully you're watching right now, from a member who I'm guessing we were talking about poetry and prose and the difference and whatever, whatever. And he
Hmm.
made a snide remark about basically about the ministers being too ignorant to know the difference between poetry and proses.
Hmm.
I think that prose is a little bit more obscure.
Hmm.
And when I look up the definition of prose, I'm still not totally convinced that I understand what the definition of prose is. I mean, I can look at something and think, oh, that's prose. But yet the definition to me is not black and white. It's a little gray. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
What would you say about that?
Somebody asked me that one time many years ago, and they said their answer was that prose goes all the way to both ends of the page, and poetry. There's kind of a very basic definition of, like, the poetry is sort of
Mhm.
columnized, or like very, I see it. I mean, I don't know. I've also heard some writers say that the prose writer, the fiction writer, hides their poetry in their prose. So I don't know. There might be.
How do you get how is there a difference between, because sometimes I get a little uh, what I think people consider prose, I consider almost like an essay.
Mhm.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah, that's an essay, or like a short story, or just
Yeah.
something more. I tend to see it as more linear.
Yeah.
I see it
But
as like it follows but it doesn't have to necessarily follow a pattern. Like, you have stream of consciousness prose like Faulkner or Joyce or something like that. I'm not, and then those are very poetic ways of writing too, and very, there's a lot of.
But if you're sitting there and you're reciting your opinion on something,
Mhm.
um, or you're giving your opinion on something, does that automatically make it prose or poetry? Um, so in my mind, I'm a little confused sometimes with the definitions. I don't think that it's
It's very
all.
confusing.
Don't
I
you think
don't
it's
know. I
confusing?
wouldn't be able to define it, like give a rigid definition of the differences between the two.
Yeah.
I mean, writing is writing to me, and I think
I
that.
just need for you to say yes, and that there is kind of some gray in there sometimes.
Okay, yes, there is.
Yes, Annette. Sometimes it's gray,
You
so
are
it's okay.
correct. Ding
It's
ding.
okay. We have another comment. Let's see. What is this? All right. Did we already? I think we already showed the Sylvia Plath one, right? Kelly Owen says she looked into her history, and then we have when was the moment you realized you had talent? Okay, and why did she put Annette Tarpley in there? I have no idea.
She's asking you.
Oh, she's asking me. Uh, I might not have reached that realization yet. So,
Uh,
So we'll go on. And then please explain prose if you can, which we tried to, and we weren't quite there yet. I'd like to hear some huge literary Harvard professor tell us the difference. I'm so
right.
fortunate to have Dustin as my mentor. He has brought me from isn't that a philosophy thing, this cave thing? Isn't that
I
in
believe
philosophy?
the cave is a reference to a cave in France that had some early human origin material. I think, if I remember, some early art from
Oh.
like early.
So do you know who this person is?
Yes, I do. That's Melissa Chappelle.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely
Melissa.
positive.
I know Melissa. Hi,
Oh,
Melissa. Melissa's a great poet and writer.
yes, she
And
is.
yeah, you need to come on too someday, Melissa. And she does some songwriting. She's a musician too. She does some of
Hmm.
that as well.
Very good
So
singer as well. Very amazing singer.
yeah, I don't know why both of you aren't signed up for my thing this weekend, my open mic.
I have to take a look at that.
That's okay. That's okay. And I'm guessing this is from Melissa who says thanks. So
Hmm.
so Melissa is a great writer. I remember she did come to open mic one time and she had recited something. I was like, whoa, wow, that was
She's
amazing.
quite talented in many areas. Very talented.
Yeah, she is. I was giggling at what Annette said when first mentioned at Prose and was asking Dustin the question of when did you realize you had talent? Okay, so
Oh,
there
so
you
it
go.
was me.
Mhm.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, at a young age, when I was in fifth grade, I won a poetry contest. It was a local school based contest with the Daughters of American Revolution, which was sort of a Catholic organization, I think. And I won the contest first place, and I was very hopeful for that. But I've always had doubts, and even today, I still have doubts about whether or not what I'm doing is really worth it. Sometimes it happens with writers that are just full of self doubt, and I think that really can be fuel for the fire. I mean, it doesn't,
Yeah.
those tensions really bring the art to the core. I think, and if it's not for the self doubt, I wouldn't be sitting down thinking, okay, well, if I like Van Gogh has said, if the voice tells you you can't paint, then by all means paint. So,
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
if a voice tells you you can't write, by all means write. Do it just to defy this tendency.
And you know what? That's happened a lot in my life where I've
Hmm.
done that. Somebody tells me, I remember I was going to be an ER nurse. I was a med surg nurse. And I told my secretary I'm going to go work in the ER. And she was an EMT. And she's like, you'll never make it there. I was an ER
Wow.
nurse for like 20 some years.
Yeah, and if someone
So,
says you can't do this and you want to do it, you tell them politely in the
yeah.
nicest
That
way
to me is
I
the
would
green
do it.
light. That's a green light, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
But,
like go right ahead and do it. That's what they're telling you.
yeah.
Speaking of
I'll
green, there's
show
green behind
you.
us.
Yeah. I think that when you were talking about that, though, how you have self doubt and so forth when we write, that that's why I feel like the Facebook community and so forth is very important because you can put your stuff up there. People, you can get feedback,
Hmm.
and then you can get vindication on whether or not is So, but there are times where I write stuff that I think is very mediocre. For some reason, that's really popular, and then the deeper
Me
stuff.
too.
So, what I always think might be great or whatever. And I recently had, got this life coach, and she loves to listen to my poetry. And she'll sit there and she'll close her eyes, and she wanted me to section it all off. But she took one of my poems and she analyzed it, and I saw things through her eyes that I wrote that I'm thinking, wow, I wrote that, but yeah, I agree with what she's saying, but was I thinking that when I wrote it? No.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very interesting.
I go
Have
back
you
to
ever
Melissa
had somebody
for
do
it
an
too.
analysis on your poem and been kind of blown away by how they viewed it?
Some people do that, and it's interesting to see that they find things because my style tends to be kind of obscure and abstract, and people find things there that I didn't intend to put there. They find things from their own lives, or something of that nature. And I find that interesting. That's what I like about being kind of ambiguous and obscure in my poetry, is that it can
Yeah.
be easily interpreted from another
Yeah,
person's
and I
view.
did that. I do that too. I kind of do some obscurity, and I went to a recently to a local is an online thing where they critique your work,
Hmm.
and they took one of my pieces and they like everybody thought it was about death, including my life coach when I read it to her, but it wasn't actually.
Hmm.
Maybe it was about death of a part of the life, but when I had that in mind, that is not where I was going or who I was thinking of. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was very interesting that so many perceived it that way. So I
Hmm.
guess it was the death of sorts, maybe to self in a way. We have another thing here. We got more. Uh, Here we go. I love defiance, Kelly, and pushing boundaries. Yes, she does. She is, yeah, she does. She does
Absolutely.
what she thinks is right. Dustin, can you talk about the process you use to tap into your emotions to communicate the depths that you do in your poetry? Great question.
Now that's an excellent question. I think, I have this, the Wordsworth says, recollected in tranquility. He uses that phrase, and so I don't know if I'm feeling depth when I write. A lot of times, I find that when I'm getting angry at like an injustice, I have one piece that's really good called Four. It's on my website, and I was so angry at people for being bigoted towards gay people. I was very angry at it, and so I sat down and I wrote this piece to kind of sympathize with a lesbian couple that were kind of confused by the bigotry, and I've written things like that. So I think I find that just observing life, I get very frustrated with people. I get I'm very introspective also, so I just sort of like observe my thoughts, and I find that and I'll pick up a lot of stuff from reading my own, other people's books, and I get a lot of knowledge from that. And so when I'm
Mhm.
writing, I find that like the emotional depth is probably part of my character, really, as a person who has deep sympathies with suffering humanity, and I really tap
Yeah.
into that, and I
Yeah.
find
And
that.
I really thank you and appreciate your sticking up for us gays. I've been gay all my life since the day I was born. It's my middle name, true story. That's
Wow.
how I'm gay.
Oh,
So I'm really not gay.
absolutely.
It's
No,
my middle name, though, true
yeah,
story.
I understand. Yeah, I
But,
just
but but when you
don't
have that
understand
for a
people
middle
being so
name,
bigoted. Hmm?
when you have that for a middle name, you get some stigma.
Yeah, I got picked on for being quote unquote gay, but I'm not gay. I mean, it was
Right.
something during my youth. It was supposed to be an insult. Oh, look, you're being gay. Like it was supposed to mean you're being silly or you're being
Right.
stupid or something. And I'm like, why? Why is that an insult?
It shouldn't be.
Can you explain that to me? It's
It
like, what
shouldn't
does that
be.
have to do with anything? I mean, people
Yeah.
thought that was, and people always, found that sort of strange. And it's like nowadays, I think it's a lot more common and a lot more understood that this is just a part of some people's nature. And
Don't you find that we as poets, though, as a general rule, not universally, but that we as a general rule seem to be able to tap into that, into the humane part, because we're more analytical with things, don't you think?
I
That
think so. It's very true. I think we have a deeper sympathy for, especially for people that are marginalized. You see in this is in the community at large, in the poetry community. They always say that the marginalized, whatever group it is, whatever, that they want the attention to give the attention to. And we really want to stick up for the people that are suffering injustice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We have a lot. We got a lot. Boy, Dustin, look at you go. You have all kinds of stuff. I think Miss Kelly Owens on here doing a lot of this. Love's Defiance, we talked about that. And then oh, Melissa came that with that question. So kudos, Melissa, the really deep one. Love that, Melissa. And Annette makes me giggle about the gay every time. I know. But I am one of the few people who can say I've been gay all my life since the day I was born. That's
Right.
my name. There you go.
That's
But
funny.
it's been my life. I worked with a guy one time. And he said, "Let me see your ID. I don't believe you." I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
yeah." So a good writer is able to write in a way that their writing can be interpreted in many perspectives. Triggers emotions that people don't even know they have. Very good, Angie. Very good. That is, yeah, that's
Absolutely.
that statement is brilliant in itself.
Hmm.
You should make that as a quote and put it up on your wall or and share it because
Poster.
that's a great quote. Um, so I want to experience a little bit more of you. Do you have well, you made your selection, so you just share whatever you want.
Poetry wise.
Yeah. Do you find that your style can change, that you can switch
Oh,
it up?
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
the way I present
Don't you love doing
characters.
that though?
Hmm?
Switching it up every once. If I switch the way I do things, people say, "Well, this is not your usual writing." But
I tend to go through periods like I write a certain way for a while and then it just shifts a little bit, just gradually shifts, and maybe I go back to another style that I had before.
yeah.
It varies, but I do have blocks where I'm writing a certain way. It seems like, yeah.
Do you write every day?
I try to mostly try to write every day, but lately I've been writing every day. But sometimes I'm just dry. I've just not able to. And I've heard other people right now saying they haven't been able to write. And I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I know my friend Kevin, for instance, Kevin Pennington said he's not able to write right now. He hasn't written anything in 6 months with Worth. And all I gotta say is I've been there. I've done that. It'll come back. It will. It really will. It doesn't leave you. It just takes a break from time to time. So
Yeah, mine doesn't leave me for that long. I might go a day or two, but I usually, if I'm kind of in a stump, I'll tell someone to give me a title. So give
that's
me a title.
really
I
good.
did that with you once, and you gave me a title, and I wrote a poem.
Excellent.
You
Yeah,
don't
I
remember
like
that, do
titling
you?
things.
You
I do
don't even
remember. I
remember
do
it.
remember you. I don't remember the title, but I do remember giving you a title.
It had something to do with fire or something. Anyway, I
Hmm.
want you to go ahead and read your next one. We got all kinds of activity going on here, which I love because there's only three people here, but look at the people who are here talking. So we got, I'm sure that, thank you. That was for Angie. So you're welcome. And now I'm going to switch it over to you and you take the stage.
Well, thank you, Annette. This is a poem I wrote called "Midnight" after a heartbreak I experienced, and it starts off with a Robert Frost quote: "The woods are lonely, dark, and deep." And this is the poem. It hurts worse at night as the earth descends into its cove. The sea's warm silence embraces her forgiving arch downward. It hurts, this dread of being alone. But are my animals ready to be freed? Is my heart truly open? If I learn to reach into the dark, maybe it will reveal its secrets. Or maybe it too is lonely and wants it. Perhaps life and love are the sacredness we chose. Thanks.
That was great. That was an insightful piece. Deep.
That's me writing
Oh,
in the middle of
oh,
midnight.
this was it, I think. Can I just read this because you gave me this
Sure.
title.
Go ahead.
The embers died, ashes remain. Does
Oh,
that
wow.
sound
I like that.
familiar? I think
I
that,
don't
I think
remember
that
that. But I remember something about that. Yeah.
I think that's what you gave me. The embers died, ashes remain. He lights the fire within my soul. The licks of the flame now out of control. Not enough water to douse the flame. Unwavering at his side I shall remain. You know what? I don't think that's it though.
It's a good one, though. It sounded nice.
But it was something like that. I'll figure it out later. I'll post it
Okay.
on my site. But yeah, you gave me this great title, and I can remember thinking, ooh. One time I came up with this great title, it's in there somewhere, and to me it was just this great title. And I don't think I don't think the poem did it justice. I should have thought about it a little more because I love the title and I liked the poem, So it's kind of like we have here we go. What is this saying?
I think we saw that one
Oh,
earlier.
that's the same one. That's the same. All right. Well, apparently they went to sleep, so that's okay. That's okay.
They went to sleep.
Um, I'm going to ask you a question I
Mhm.
ask a lot of people,
Okay.
and that is this. You have come across Aladdin's lamp and you are given three wishes, anything you want in the world. Doesn't necessarily have to be poetry or literature. What do you want? Three wishes.
Okay, that's interesting. If I remember the legend, they're not allowed to give you love, so that one's gone. I think. Well, that would be one of my things. Like find a good twin flame,
Yeah,
somebody that I'm compatible with. That it doesn't have to be perfect. I want there to be tensions between me and my significant other, but I don't want it to be violent tensions. I want it to be creative tensions that create.
right.
So that would be something I would want. Um, to be a full time writer that I can actually get paid and work and be able to make a living off of this. Like that would be another thing.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, number three. Uh, hmm. That's I'm thinking.
So
Um,
your first one was what again? Was your first one wanting love? You can't
a
have it
twin
because it's not one of the
flame,
wishes?
a twin
Huh?
flame, a twin
Oh, the twin
flame.
flame.
Yeah, somebody that's sort of my mirror image, and I don't know. If,
Yeah, my fear is that I'm never going to have it. I'm 60 years old. It's not
yeah,
going to happen. And so
yeah, and I'm 42, and it hasn't
yeah,
happened for me either. So
yeah. And I'm so envious every time I meet somebody that has that. And I always ask them, so what is the secret or what is it,
right,
and so I do. Hundreds of times I've asked that question. And uh and
my
my
uncle was
marriage
lucky
advice, don't
to
take
meet
it,
his soulmate.
my relationship advice is you got to water and fertilize the grass, otherwise it dies.
Hmm.
And the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It has lots of weeds in it. Still needs to be mowed.
I don't think there's anything wrong with being alone. I think, but I do. I've been alone for 42 years, and I would like a creative partner. Somebody that I can bounce ideas off of, and people that I can. I'm surrounded by some really creative people, so that's not a problem. But I mean, if I had someone that was really like an intimate friend, and as
Right,
well
right,
as
right.
confidant and you
Yeah,
know,
I found that in dating, I have to have somebody that if they're not a writer or whatever, they have a passion for what I do and
right,
they are excited about what I do. Because otherwise, it's like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's good. I mean, you try to read it because you're excited and then they lose their interest. And so
right.
you almost need somebody that keeps that interest and encourages you in doing it. It's
Exactly.
very
Yeah,
important.
and someone that and hopefully I can do that for that other person as well. That's why I say twin
Yeah,
flame, like we flip flop on each other, like we just kind of have this synergy going on. It's
yeah.
really.
I think it's very important. I
Mhm,
think it what well, just not in that, but let's just say in a relationship that they support each other
mhm,
in whatever they do and whatever their passion is.
right.
So I think it's very important. We have I what did she say? I prefer my first answer. Love that question. Do you know what she's talking about? My first answer. Love that question.
Mhm. I think she was talking about the.
Hmm. What
Let's
poem of yours was? Oh,
right. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I write a lot. I have tons and tons of poetry. I have tons of notebooks. Um, I don't know. I don't really have a specific poem that I recite frequently. Generally, it's a really good question, but I write a lot about love and grief. So most everything that I connect with on a really strong level that I write.
kind of like polar ends. I kind of do that too.
Yeah.
I either, kind of that.
Uh
Yeah,
huh.
yeah,
Absolutely. I noticed that when I looked at my young poems when I was about 15, 16, I have a duality going on. There's some poems that are like angry and hostile, and then there's these really sensitive, love verses that are just like I love you and I respect your emotions and blah blah blah.
yeah,
And there are other poems that are like I'm gonna blow up the world.
yeah, yeah. But it's a great way to get rid of, that, anxiety and anger. So we have, so we got that, and then so what she's talking about is the genie question. As far as she says,
Hmm.
I prefer the first answer, and that's what she was talking about.
Okay.
So the genie question. So let me, whoops. So if you could give, well, let me ask you this question instead.
Okay.
Do you feel like somebody who is maybe not just a poet, but a great poet? Do you think that that is something that is innately born within them, or something that they can work at and acquire?
I would say a poet is a really grueling affair. To be a great poet, it's a lot, not only a lot of work, it's a lot. There's a lot of conflicts with society and so forth. So I think you'd have to be born for that. I think there's almost fated to that. That doesn't mean you have to be fated to write poetry. I mean, I think anybody can really sit down and write a poem if they really set their mind to it.
Right.
But I think to be an
But I
actual
think it's the difference between anything, like a musician who's a mediocre musician or a great musician, or one who dabbles in painting or is a wonderful artist, you know?
hmm
So yeah, I think that we all have capabilities, because in my mind, I'm still saying I'm Monet, but this is Picasso, you know? So, do you have any other artistic? Um,
I do a little bit of abstract expressionist painting. I do. I play guitar. I'm a fairly okay guitar player. I've written a lot of songs, but they're not really anything special. They're just me playing around, and I usually record a rhythm track and then do a little doodling with the leads and
well, that's
sing
cool.
a little bit. Let's see if I do anything else. I mean, I like philosophy a lot, but that's not really that's part of my poetry. So
I
um,
like philosophy. I like certain. I just remember when taking philosophy in college that I thought people had a lot of weird thoughts and they were just calling them philosophical. You know what I mean? I thought, were they into shrooms or what? I'm in a room and it's dark. How do I know I really exist? Kind of thing. You
right,
know, and I just thought,
right. Two hands clapping.
I can come up with this stuff. Just give me a second. I'll come up with something.
I
But
mean, you have a lot of that in philosophy, a lot of really crazy stuff.
yeah, just a lot of I think they're just um not so philosophical as uh,
I have a book now,
delusional maybe.
Peter Custer's, who's is called. I believe it's called the experience of psychotic thinking, and it deals with like how philosophy and psychosis are like sort of like twins, Like it's really
Oh,
interesting, and he goes into like how a lot of questions that philosophers ask can be, are psychological in some ways. It's really interesting.
yeah, and that would be interesting to do a study on that. Uh, Research writers and find out how many writers actually, you know what I mean. I remember going to an event one time. I swear you were there. They were talking about Sylvia Plath, and I think you were there at this event. And they were talking about how basically how all poets have this dark, depressed side of them or whatever.
Hmm
And I didn't agree with it because I don't, even though I can write dark, I don't feel dark. Like I don't feel
Right.
depressed. So I can
Poets
go
are
there.
bipolar.
Huh?
I think poets.
Did you call me bipolar?
No, I said
Hey,
I think poets. A lot of most poets. I mean, there's been studies on that. That's true. I mean, I think that a lot of
bipolar.
poets are very bipolar, and that's where that duality comes from. But it's not true of everybody, obviously.
Yeah, it might be something I've just been denying for years. Who knows? I don't know. Um, let's see. We have more comments. I should explain. Okay. Okay. So we have. I'm trying to train my boyfriend to like poetry.
It's like
Wish
training
we
a
knew who
dog
that was
to
from.
be on the
Um,
newspaper.
yeah, Melissa. Why doesn't he like poetry? Oh, Melissa said that. What's there not to like? And so they're having a conversation between themselves. I don't know. He's just not an arts kind of guy. And so this is fun reading the background, a little chit chat, isn't it? We should try to do a parody together with you playing the guitar.
That'd
Okay,
be
so
fun.
look at they got their own thing going on back there. We should, and we're
Bad
eavesdropping on their
boyfriend.
conversation. So kind of feel naughty, don't you? It's a little unclean. We're like getting into their conversation in the background, and it's not
Eavesdropping.
even we're eavesdropping on their conversation. It's kind of cute. So if you have advice to somebody who really is starting out in poetry and really wants to excel and become greater in poetry,
hmm
what would you say would be your number one thing that you would tell them?
I would say read and imitate your favorite writers. Find out, get to the root of what appeals to from that writer in your mind, like what attracts you to that writer's style. And I would say travel a lot too. If you can do that, then that's something that will expand your horizons. I traveled a little bit as a teenager, and I have a pretty broad understanding of the United States. I guess I've been
Yeah.
throughout the United States, so it's really fun, and it really loosens up your mind a lot of times. If you get into those blocks, and those mental blocks, just I don't know, just go out for a walk in nature. That might help too. Just walk out in the middle of the trees and just kind of observe and watch the birds, and just that's nature's language is poetry. I mean,
Yeah.
the way that nature speaks to us, and in a way, there's a spirit through it that moves through it, and
It
so it's
really is, isn't it? I
beautiful.
recently
It
got a job offer to go to Colorado,
is.
and I was getting excited because I was working with the Native Americans, and I so want to do that sometime in my life. I just really want to do that.
Wow.
And I had to turn it down because I've had some issues, and the altitude I thought might bother those right now.
Hmm.
And but I just was like, I had it in my mind, I was going to go out there because, and I love, and I think you sent me a link, or somehow through you that one time I got the link that had the Native American poetry that's so amazing.
Oh yes, the Matt Walla. Yes, that was.
But what upsets me is I want to be able to, like, to bring those people on here, or to, you know what I mean, tap into that. There was one time I had a open mic session, and I did find a Native American poet, invited her on, and she shared. And so I love, their poetry. I actually wrote a Native American type of poem,
Mhm.
not that I'm Native American, but um, and do you have the anthology? You should have the anthology because you wrote it.
No, I don't think I have that one yet. I don't think I have it.
Well, you're in it, so you
I
should get
know.
it. Just saying.
Once I get
Uh,
some money, I'll go on a book.
I know. I kind of went back on my book stuff too, but in there is a Native American poem that a friend of mine who's local wrote. He
Hmm.
has a little Native American in him. Actually, I had Alan Johnson paid him to make a video of it. But it's a great poem.
Hmm.
So we have, I think there's still chit chat in the background. We're just going to not pay attention to those girls back there. Um, so what I want you to do, because our time is coming to an end, is I want you, it went really fast, Dustin.
Wow.
Yeah. Who knew we could chit chat like this?
Hmm.
Yeah, we've like a couple of old girlfriends that, catching up or something. Um, so what I want you to do is read another one of your poems,
Okay.
and then we'll kind of start moving towards the exit. And I apologize to both Dustin and the rest of you for being late. I had some things detaining me, so my apologies.
All right. So this poem to a friend of mine, and it is in fact a love poem, and it's called "The Sky's Purple Shadow." These eyes of heavenly bounty, gracious as the winds are free, her patience and grace leave me in sweet tears. A voice I once found dull, I now find charming with dark honey. But what is the old rule of love? I will speak honestly and faithfully. Your eyes are your voice, and I surrender madly to your trust. In certain madness there is patience, and glowing embers burning with ambrosia of tense lovemaking. As the halls of silence between us remind me that you are deep in thought of the beauteous bounty offered by another.
Ah, yeah.
Love poetry.
I need to have some poet fall in love with me so I can have him write me some stuff. So yeah.
Immortalized.
Oh, what did you say?
Immortalized.
Immortalized. But then when you have somebody give that, when you is it written for you, that's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Dennis Brown writes stuff for his wife all the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. So we have, oh, here, this must be a Melissa thing. It sounds deep. Dustin, how does the classic Greek literature influence your poetry?
Well, when I was about 12, my grandmother insisted I read Edith Hamilton's mythology. and she bought me a copy, and she said, "If you're going to be a writer, Dustin, you better read this." And she handed it to me, and so I came into these stories like from a mind of wanting to be a writer as at a very young age,
Mhm.
and thinking of them as allegories. And she always explained to me, "Don't look at it literally. It's a story that's meant to tell you something. It's meant to explain something to you. So think about what this story might mean." So I learned from these ancient Greek myths how to kind of construct a good story. And in my poetry and in my writing, I use a lot of allegories. I use a lot of personification. I use
A
a
lot of symbolism in them. A lot of
Yeah, of
symbolism.
course. And that one
Yeah.
poem I read earlier was Cupid, was me referring to Cupid and Persephone. And I use a lot of Greek myth. I do. I really do. It's essential to me. And my grandmother used to tell me, if you want to be a writer, you have to know the myths. You have to know the myths very well. And the Bible too is, of course, a huge influence. And Friedrich Nietzsche's writings is my other one.
Yeah, I think that's great. Love that. Love that. Love that. And we have I love the title. Somebody loved the title and that was beautiful. So,
Thank you.
just trying to think if I have one more deep. I do. I ask people this all the time, and no one ever gives me the answer to this. So let's see. You be the philosophical soul that you are.
Mm.
What's the meaning? What's the meaning of life, Dustin?
To experience. You just live it and you go through it and you experience and you enjoy and savor every moment. Even the bad moments are part of the experience. They're the shadows to your light. Just that's my impression. I don't have like
I
a
think
deep thought meaning, like, this is
no,
why we're here kind of thing. I don't think that
yeah.
that's the right question. I think to experience is what we're meant to be doing, just to enjoy and
I
go
think
through.
that's a great answer.
Thank you.
And what is even more marvelous than that is that I've asked about 100 people that question. They're all going, I don't know. And then Dustin took it on and said, "Don't make it so complex. Just let's break it down into simplicity, right?"
Right. Just experience. I don't know what
Yeah.
else it could be for. I really don't. I was telling a friend of mine this morning that life is God's gift to you. And you might not. Some people might not believe in God, but it's God's gift to you, and it's something that that you shouldn't take from your own hands. Like, you shouldn't like throw your life away. I mean, because she was in a
Right.
bad moment, and I said, just think this through. you
Yeah.
know and I said, this is God's gift to you. Even if other people are slighting you, you don't feel comfortable with what's going on in your life, just live it through. Everything goes back in a circle. It always comes back around. Everything just runs and
Yeah.
runs in circles.
Yeah,
There's
and I think that they just need to remember that this too shall pass, right? It's rough
absolutely.
right now, but better days are coming. You just got to
Hmm.
ride the wave. And because I've been going through some rough stuff too lately,
Yeah.
and there's poetry. I've done some God poems recently.
Hmm.
Why art thou forsaken me, kind of thing.
Right.
So
Me too.
yeah, but not
Dark
always
time.
knowing that He's there, right?
We're in dark
Um,
times. We really are. It's everybody I
yeah,
know is just this post COVID era. It's like we're trying to get
yeah.
back on track. The world's falling apart. We don't know what we're doing. It's
But
hard. It's
look,
very hard.
Dustin, we still have poetry. We have the gift of poetry.
In arts in general. We have the
Yeah,
arts.
exactly, exactly.
More art. Go out and write a book, everybody. Anybody love it that's in travail right now? Write a book. Write some poetry. Don't forget that. We need more poetry. We need more beauty in the world. Even if it's you complaining to yourself about how lonely life is, like I do so much, do it. Write it.
There needs to be a poetry revolution, especially here in the States where I don't feel like poetry it has the respect that it does in others. And that's
Very true.
really what I want to do is instill this poetry revolution. And because I ask people all the time, do you like poetry? 80% of them say, no, not really.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So we need to do that, Dustin.
We need to
Get
get
on
out there and push it on people.
armor. Get
Christmas
on
presents.
our armor, penned with armor, or inked with
And
armor.
give gifts of books that are good poetry to people for Christmas presents, for Easter. It's coming up on Easter. Put it in your Easter basket for somebody, or put a little stocking or something. Just get the poetry out
Yeah.
there. And,
I think that is an excellent idea. And actually, that might also be where, anthologies are good too
mhm.
to include because it has a wide range of poets and different styles and stuff too. But yes, I think you're right.
Cool.
So kudos to you. And Dustin, I think, and grow. I love your poetry. You're very deep. Thank you. To think and to grow. And then, ooh, I am late. Somebody said this is Christian. Sorry, Christian, you're gonna have to watch the recap because we're just getting ready to leave. But
Wonderful.
Dustin, it's been a pleasure to have
You
you.
too.
And
Thank you so much.
um, I always enjoy talking to you, and you're very insightful. And um, think about coming to the open mic on Sunday. I'll send you a couple of links.
Yes, if I have time, I'll try to make it in.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Love and blessings to you all. Thanks for joining us. Bye.